and they put her on bed rest immediately when we found out she was pregnant. My first son was born 5 weeks early, so there were some complications. They did a procedure on my wife to hold the baby in. There's cerclage. They would hold the baby in, it's going to be there, but she's on bed rest the whole time. And I would like to say, when that happened, that it clicked and said, okay, my family is going to be a priority for me. But you want to know the first thing that I thought about? The first thing that I thought about was, how is this going to impact me in the climbing the career ladder? I'm not going to be able to be in these meetings. I'm not going to be able to continue to grow the way that I wanted to grow in my career. That was my first thought. And on some level, and just as an FYI, I told my wife what I was going to say, so if you do talk to her, she knows. Which is at some level, I think I resented the fact that she had to be on bed rest, because that really caused me to really put the brakes on my career. So she's on bed rest. I'm working from home. This was many, many years ago, so I'm working from home. Every opportunity that I get to go to Washington, D.C., or to go travel, or to go do something, I take it. My mother-in-law is 15 minutes away. I'm like, everybody, they have her, everything's going to be okay. So I still wasn't really bought into investing in the present of my family. Then Nathaniel was born on September 16th, 2008, at 26 weeks and 1 day. He was 1 pound, 15 ounces. And my wedding ring could fit around his thigh. Around his thigh. That's when it really clicked that I need to do something different. I have a 1-year-old at home. I have a wife who has been hurting, right? So she's feeling to some degree disregarded because I haven't been there. She's doing everything that she can. I'm dealing with really helping her understand that it's not her fault, right? The baby's coming early is not her fault, because there's a certain point that she's thinking that it's her fault. And so I'm dealing with all this. I'm dealing with the work stuff. I'm dealing with, what am I going to do? And so that's where I come to the 3 questions that I ask myself. And these 3 questions are this. Do you want to win at work? And I was like, yeah, I want to win at work. I want to have success there. I'm doing that. Do you want to win at home? Of course I want to win. But all of the things that I'm doing at work and building a career and making money and doubling salary and doing all those things, it's for them. That was the lie that we tell ourselves, that it's for them. It wasn't for them, it was for me. It was for me to fulfill the plan and the dream that I had at the time. The lie that we often tell ourselves is we're doing all these things for the people that are closest to us, but we don't spend any time with the people that are closest to us. And my mother said many, many years ago, she says, James, I noticed something about you. What is it, Mom? You make time for those things that matter to you. For those things that don't matter to you, you don't make the time. And so those are things that are going through my mind. And then I asked the last question, are you winning at work and at home? And I was winning at work, but I was not winning at home, so that meant I had to change. That was the whole design and emphasis of what I call the Engineer's Blueprint for Success. And so the Engineer's Blueprint is a 4-step process. The first step is build your vision. Right? How many people have a vision for what it is that they want to achieve in life? All right, everybody here has vision. So 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, how broad is your vision? Somebody, who? 10. Does anything in your vision scare you? Yes. Oh, I'm in the right room. because it should. So it's really about building your vision. The next is evaluate and build your foundation. Here's the thing, the bigger your vision, the stronger the foundation that you need to be able to carry the vision that you want. And so here we're talking about your values, your beliefs, those things that are core to who you are. Those are the things, if you're working out, they always tell you to work on your core strength because your core strength will help you do other things. That's what your foundation does for your vision. It helps to hold it up. It helps so that you can build what it is you want to build. In the construction process or the design process, we typically design from the top down. So we look at the roof, and then all of the subsequent floors we're designing down. So that's why building your vision, where you want to go, is very important. But when we build from the bottom up. We start with the foundation, making sure that that foundation is strong enough to be able to support the structure, to be able to support your dream, to be able to support your vision. Next, we build that plan. So here's where you're talking about the habits, the activities, all of the things that you need to do to really fulfill the vision that you have for your business, for your life, and then execute. What happens if plans are just left on paper?
Trash.
What?
Trash.
Trash. It's useless, right? They're there, but if you don't actually execute them and put them into practice, they're not going to be useful to you. How many of you have plans for things that you want to do? Maybe you've written it out, but you haven't pursued them yet. I would contend that it's time to pursue those things that you've been planning for. It's time to build a plan for the vision that you have. It's time to begin to execute, to put these things into action. So I executed, right? I built the plan of really wanting to have success in business and in life. I thought that it was going to be something that was going to derail my career. I was wrong. What I found is that when I made time for those things that were important for me and I made them a priority, that life and my career and everything filled in the gaps. They didn't overtake them, but they filled in the gaps that were left because I was making time for those things that were important for me. I remember when my son came home from the hospital. He was healthy. We're all, like really happy and elated. And my boss at the time says, "So now that that's over, are you going to come back to DC?" No, I'm not. But James, we have a promotion that we want to give you. Significant promotion. It's going to give me additional money, give me resources, stuff that in the past I would have said I need to do for my family. And I said no. James, what happened to your ambition? You know what? My ambition is to build a life where I can be productive at work, but I can be present with my family. And if this job requires me to be away from my family, I don't want it. Well, we're starting to hear that, James. Okay, all right, great. So I'm leaving, I'm going back, I'm working, I'm doing my thing. I am, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, maybe they don't think I'm committed to the organization. Maybe they're going to, tell me that they're going to let me go. All of this. About a month later, I get a phone call. "Hey, James, you've been doing such a great job and working remotely. You don't have to come up here to Washington, D.C. every day. Can you come one day every other week?" "Sure, I can arrange that." "Okay, well, you got a promotion." And when I began to make those things a priority for me, those things became a priority for other people too. I would have people would try to schedule meetings and they would say, "We can't schedule this meeting at this time because James is going to spend time with his family, going to pick up things." And I was very clear in my schedule about what I was doing. I put it in my schedule. Here's what I'm doing. That's what I'm spending time with I'm picking up my kids from school. I'm doing these things. I was very clear because I thought, if I'm clear and it's in my schedule, I'm not hiding anything. I'm not hiding anything. And everything really worked out. I'm here to tell you everything worked out. I had a very successful career. Very successful career. Winning awards. It was an award that I won for being the renewal lead. This is the promotion that I got leading the renewal focus area in a nationwide research program. That's me speaking at another conference. It was absolutely wonderful. And then we get to this. So I was put up for an award for distinguished alumni at Virginia Tech. I went to graduate school at Virginia Tech. And we're there at the award ceremony, and I'm listening to all of these people, right? They're talking about these companies that they've started. They're talking about inventions that they've made. They're talking these people up. And so the question that I have, how many people here have ever experienced imposter syndrome? I know I have. And I'm sitting there in this room, and I'm like, why am I getting an award? Like, who, what is going on? And they're talking about all of these great things that these people are doing. And so they get to me. And the person that was giving me the award or the announcement wasn't at Virginia Tech when I was at Virginia Tech. So they talked about the $80 million research program that I ran. They talked about all of the products that are actually being used to repair our nation's infrastructure. They talked about the impact that I've had with committees and volunteers in doing all of those things. And then he stops and says, I didn't know James when he was here. I wasn't here, so I called around to some of his past employers and people that have worked with him so that I can get a sense and a feel for who he is. He says, in addition to all of the other things that we've already talked about and that he's been able to accomplish, everyone told me James really loves his family. He's dedicated to his family. Now, I'm at an award banquet where they're talking about all of this other stuff. But what they're recognizing me for is my ability to win at work and to win at home. So remember in the very beginning, I talked about what the list was? It was spend 3 to 5 years in the public sector, 3 to 5 years in the private sector, 3 to 5 years looking at things at the national level. And what was that fourth thing that I was going to do? I talked about going to the university and teach. Let's X that out. But it was a start, a consulting firm, which I've done. And so I've been able to realize the dream that I set out 20 plus years ago. And along that path, I've been able to build over $1 million in retirement investment portfolio. I've been able to invest in millions of dollars in real estate. I've been flexible enough to be able to take my kids to school, get them home from school, to help with homework, to be there for my wife. And so don't tell me that you cannot do both. You can. You may have to redefine what success looks like, which is what I had to do. I had to redefine success from climbing up this ladder to being able to check these things off the list, to designing a life where it really revolved around my ability to spend time with my family. So make time. Make time for those things that are important to you. Here's the 3 questions. So I'm going to ask you guys. Do you want to win at work or in your career or in your business? Raise your hand. Do you want to win at home? Raise your hand. Now here's the one that's honest. I don't know if I want to ask you to raise your hand or not, but here's the one where you have to be honest with yourself, and it was the hardest one for me to answer. Are you? Are you winning at work and at home? And if you're not, that's where the work starts. Being aware that you're not winning at home and that you want to, or being aware that you're not winning at work or whatever that area is and you want to, is the first step. But now that you're aware, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got to be able to take action. So here's a QR code for a workbook that I have about building your vision. Because I think building your vision is that first step in designing the life that you want. So if you're not winning at home, many of us have a vision, but if you don't have a vision for winning at home, then maybe you need to click the QR code, download the workbook, so that you can work on that vision. This talks about your vision for your physical health, spiritual health, financial, business, home, relationships. And so all of those different areas make you who you are. I want to thank you. It's 5-minute break. Is that what you? Okay, Danielle's telling me it's a 5-minute break. I would say it's different when you're actually the first speaker. You're supposed to be the MC because the MC is supposed to come and be like, hey, it's time. Your time is done. So we'll take a 5-minute break. But does anybody have any questions? I know this isn't on your agenda. I know it's messing up your time, Danielle. But does anybody have any questions? Okay.
No, just to congratulate you at being able to do that.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
I do have a question.
All right, go ahead.
Were you scared when you set the boundary the first time?
Yes. I was absolutely scared when I set the boundary. Because in my mind, my job was that priority, and building my career was that priority. It was the thing that I set out to do. And setting this boundary and telling these other people no, that I thought held the key to my success, that was scary. And part of redefining success is understanding that I have agency, that I have control. They don't define my success, I do. But yes, it was very scary.
What gave you the courage to do it anyway?
When I'm looking at my son who needs my presence and his thigh can fit into my ring, that's scary enough for anybody. I mean, that was really the jolt for me that kind of snapped me to it and said, okay, I have less than 1-year-old at home, or a 1-year-old at home. I have my wife who's hurting. I haven't been there, I haven't been present. I have a child who's been born 14 weeks early. He's 1 pound, 14 ounces. I need to be there. I need to be there. That's the moment when you say, no, I'm not.
We're tested in our convictions.
Yeah. Yeah, we're tested in our convictions.
So it's not a conviction if it's only when it's convenient.
Right. That is correct. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
I see, Trevor, the glare was on your name.
Oh, good. So in the balance of actually executing your boundaries for work versus family, did you stick to it systematically from day to day, week to week, or was it more of flux in the balance where sometimes you were having to give much more work and then the family understood that, and then other times you gave much more to the family?
Trevor, that's an excellent question. If people weren't able to hear him, he's asking, was this something that I regimented and said, this is just how it's going to be, or did it flow along with the needs of work and family? For me, it flowed. It was a very fluid dynamic. In the very beginning, it was rigid. It was, here's the time that I'm going to do this, here's the time that I'm going to do that. I don't know if it was for them or for me to make sure that I could stick to my convictions. But as time goes on and trust is built, it becomes very fluid. And here's the thing we often forget, or I find that people forget. They remember to check in with their company about what they're trying to do, what they're doing. What they don't do is check in with their family and say, hey, listen, for the next few weeks, this is what's going on at work. So I am going to need to do this, this, and this. And if you find that after those few weeks that I'm not back to doing the things that we've agreed that we're going to do, I need you to help hold me accountable. That, to me, is the missing piece sometimes, because we don't pull the family and we're like, they don't understand. And kind of the way that I talk about it, particularly if I'm talking to people that have been dating or about to get married, and they're like, so how is this going to be? And I say that When you're dating someone, you tend to escape your life in order to be with that person, right? You leave all of these things behind. It's this whole joy of being together. You're going on a date. You're there. When you get married, nothing gets left behind. Everything comes together. And so, because this thing, I think there are times when we still think that if I'm going to do something at work, that it does, family's going to understand because they know me. No, you have to communicate what you want to do. You have to communicate the steps that you want to take. It was a little bit long-winded, but thank you for the question. Outtake.
What if you had the jolt, identified it, started, do you really think I need this, sir? Yeah, identified it, feels really nice. That was too soft for my liking here. You find it, identify it, you start working at it, trying to fix one of the two, and then you realize you're half-assing it, and maybe you don't want it bad enough. And, how can you construct another jolt? How can you fabricate one if there's nothing as severe as having a preemie or a car accident, whatever bad thing, like...
Whatever it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing that gives you the jolt. For me, it was, that probably was the thing that pushed me over the edge to say that I need to do something different.
So you were close already?
Yeah, I was close already.
Okay.
And there were times when, even after making the shift, I'm traveling, I'm working, and I'm looking back at what's happening with my wife, and I'm keeping her engaged in what I'm doing. And I remember being it's a couple years after this, I remember being in New Orleans for a meeting, and we were talking, and it was in December, and I had traveled a lot that year. But again, I'm not going up to DC, but I just traveled a lot that year. And I remember saying to her, this is the last year I'm going to do this. Like, this is the last year that I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that I'm spending time. So even once you make the shift, there will be times when you miss the mark. But what I would say for you is work on the inputs. So if you know the life that you want, and you know you want to connect with your wife or your children, or you know you want to grow in your work, what are the inputs that you're working on? What are the habits that you're putting in place to support that vision? Because that's what's going to get you there.
It's just math. It's not willpower. It's just do.
What are you do?
Yeah.
Yes.
System. Yeah.
Yep. System and habit. So even if you feel the emotional compunction to do it, you're compelled to do it, and you don't have the habits, and you don't put those things in place, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it.
What I would offer to you, Jake, is there's always a whisper telling you what you're supposed to do, and then it gets louder, and then you get hit in the face.
Yep.
So you can do it on your own choice, or you can be made to do it. And I never liked it when I was made to do something.
Neither. I didn't like it either.